Welcome to Odd's Bodkins Curiosity Shop, where you'll find the unique, the bizarre, and sometimes the haunted. Feel free to look around, peruse the items, and never fear, there's nothing here that bites. Hard anyway. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Odd's Bodkins Curiosity Shop. Thank you for stopping in to your home for horror, fantasy, and science fiction. I am your shopkeeper, Chris Baker, and today an interesting item. If you'll follow me over here to our section on ancient and not so ancient swords, you'll find a katana. Now, many of our katanas are of ancient origin, but this is actually a rather new katana. Although the blade is not your average katana blade, it seems to be made of a metal not often talked about, but I believe it's something we'll hear more about in the not too distant future. And it's this modern take on an ancient weapon that has given me pause to think about a new film that has been released. So let's pull out the kinetoscope and take a look at the new film, Deadpool and Wolverine. So Deadpool and Wolverine probably has to be one of my most anticipated movies of 2024. I loved the first two Deadpool movies. I've loved the Wolverine movies, the X-Men stuff, the Solo stuff. Logan was such a masterful send-off to the Logan character, the Wolverine character, Hugh Jackman's portrayal of it. And when I found out that they were going to essentially undo that and bring Hugh Jackman back for a Deadpool and Wolverine movie, I'm like, let's fucking go, as they say in the movie. And I was all in on this because, one, I know how good of friends Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are, and all the things they've done, the fake Twitter war that they've had, social media war that they've had. It just seems like these two guys just have fun together. And why would I not want to see that on a movie, on the silver screen? So when I found out they were doing Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm like, Deadpool movie, check. Badass character like Wolverine, check. Two buddies making a buddy film that I think is going to be fun. You got me, check. I was all in on this, and this movie really had a lot of pressure, I think, because of the trailers that they put out where you had Ryan Reynolds saying, you know, as the Deadpool character, as the Wade Wilson character, that he's Marvel Jesus. And I think there was a lot of pressure, I think, put on this movie by the fans, because I think there were a lot of fans, myself included, right away, that thought, oh, this is going to change the Marvel Cinematic Universe in one movie, and this is going to right the ship in one movie. I will say right off the bat, before we get into spoiler territory, because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't watched this movie yet, but you have to manage your expectations going into a movie. This doesn't automatically change everything in the MCU. If that's what you were expecting, don't expect that. This is a righting of the ship in the sense that this is a really good freaking movie. And we haven't had a lot of really good movies. This is a great movie. I'll go as far as saying that this is a great movie. Maybe not the greatest comic book film of all time. I haven't really put much thought into that, but this is a great movie in a world where a lot of the Marvel stuff as of late has been mediocre or okay at best. So I think that if you're going into this, you have to manage your expectations that this isn't going to change the cinematic universe of Marvel, but it is a step in the right direction for Marvel as a studio in putting out quality. I think you've got this. You're going to follow it up with Captain America, Brave New World, which I think looks really good. You've got the Thunderbolts coming out. So I think this is the first step in Marvel righting the ship. And while this deals with multiverse stuff, this doesn't fix the multiverse problem that Marvel has had. I think that's coming down the road, and we'll talk about that a little more once I get into the spoiler territory. But I think this is a really good movie because, one, it has a lot of great, gruesome, bloody, brutal action. Multiple fights between Wolverine and Deadpool, or at least two fights between Wolverine and Deadpool that were just fantastic. You had them fighting other people. You had, like all the brutality brutality that you would want, and you have all the blood and gore that you would want in a rated R film. And this is a hard R. It's got all the language, all the violence that you could want in a rated R movie. It also has a lot of really cool cameos. Not as many as I was expecting, but there still were a lot of cameos, a lot of good cameos, and a lot of relevant cameos, which I really appreciated. It wasn't just cameos for cameo's sake. And we'll talk about who I thought might be in that wasn't in, and who was actually in this once we get into spoiler territory. It had a lot of relevance to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we are sitting right now, and the trouble that they have been in with, like I said, they've had some good movies, Black Panther 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, good movies, but then they've had some not so good movies, the Marvels, Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania, some of the Disney Plus shows have been just mediocre, if not bad. So you have a lot of relevance with what's going on with the multiverse. You have a lot of fun fourth wall breaking moments that are relevant to the state of Marvel right now. I really enjoyed that. You have Wolverine in the classic blue and yellow costume, which we've been waiting, as Ryan Reynolds says, 20 fucking years for this. It just had so many great things. But I think the thing that really makes this movie stand out, and you get this with a lot. Deadpool movies are really, everyone focuses on the crude humor and the foul language and the violence and all that, but Deadpool movies always have an underlying heart to them, and that's what you get with this. You get a really good heartfelt story between Logan and his past, Deadpool and his past, and them coming together as a team up to deal with both of their pasts or presents, and it just has a lot of emotion, a lot of heart that really makes a fun action movie with a lot of, I don't know if you want to call it juvenile humor, dick and fart jokes, and blood and gore. It gives a movie like that that's really fun to watch. It gives it a deeper meaning that goes from a fun watch to a really great watch. So that's all I'm going to say about this movie before we get into spoiler territory. If you haven't watched Deadpool and Wolverine, I think it's already broken the box office record for opening of a rated R film. This movie is just doing phenomenal. I think the weekend's not even done as I'm recording this. I'm recording this on Sunday, the 28th. This episode will drop on Monday, the 29th. And it's already at like over $300 million at the box office. So just this movie is just doing gangbusters, and it's well deserved. So go be a part of it. Go be a part of making this what is probably going to end up being $1 billion film. Go help the cause. Let people know. Let Marvel know that, you know what, we're going to show up for really good movies. We're going to show up for great movies and show them that we appreciate efforts of Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Sean Levy, everyone involved in making a great movie like Deadpool and Wolverine. So go check it out if you haven't had a chance to watch Deadpool and Wolverine. If you have, or you don't care about spoilers, you know you're not going to be able to see it for quite some time. And you know what? If you're going to have things spoiled for you, you might as well have it spoiled here at Bodkins Curiosity Shop. So without further ado, we're going to head into spoiler territory. Let's fucking go. So, given a brief synopsis of the plot, and usually I don't like to do that because, if you've seen the movie, you know the plot. But my thoughts on that, you have Wade, who's in a situation where, he's just coasting through life, and he's broken up with Vanessa because she wants him to do more with his gifts and his abilities, and he finds out that his timeline is dying because Wolverine from the Logan movie, the Fox Universe Wolverine, has died, and that his timeline is dying. So in order to save that, he's trying, with the TVA, he's trying to go find a replacement Wolverine, which Wolverine, they introduced the anchor being thing to this, which I think, there is a precedence for that in the comics. I can't remember exactly where that is from, but they've done that in the comics. But they introduced that to the TVA and the timeline stuff. Anchor beings that once they die, it may take a couple thousand years, but that timeline will die off. And you have Paradox from the TVA who's trying to hasten that, and Wade wants to save his timeline, so he's finding a replacement Wolverine. And then the whole thing about Paradox going rogue and the TVA doesn't know that he is trying to destroy this timeline, this Fox timeline. It kind of parallels the notion of Disney buying Fox and the thought and the notion that Disney is just trying to kill off what Fox did as far as Marvel movies. Now, I liked this. The premise is relatively simple for being complicated because it has to do with timelines. There was some interesting things about this that I liked. I like the anchor being thing with Wolverine. I like that it's, the timeline's dying because he died in Logan, which I can't remember, but I want to say Logan takes place in 2029. So it's a not too distant future. The one thing I found kind of funny is that Deadpool seems to know all about the events of Logan and about Wolverine sacrificing himself for X-23. But I found it odd, like how would Deadpool know the events of that if Deadpool is set in the present and that was set in the future? And I just found that kind of funny. Probably my only nitpick. But other than that, I really did like the premise of it. It is simply a Deadpool trying to save his timeline, and Wolverine, this worst version of Wolverine, as they say, because he let his timeline down, trying to find a way to redeem himself for letting his timeline down. And it was a simple concept. Like I said, it became a little complicated in the explanation just because you're dealing with timelines and time travel and this happened then and this happened in this universe and all that. But the basic premise of the movie was quite simple, and it is these two characters, Deadpool and Wolverine, traveling through the void, trying to get back to Deadpool's timeline so he can stop the end of the existence of the people he loves. And there's that scene with Happy Hogan. We'll get into that in a minute, where Deadpool is in the 616 universe and back in 2018 and trying to become a member of the Avengers, and Happy Hogan asks Deadpool why he wants to be a member of the Avengers. This is while Deadpool still has Cable's time-traveling watch. And Deadpool says because he needs this. He needs to be able to show Vanessa that he is more than who he is. And Happy Hogan says the Avengers don't do things because they need it. The Avengers do things because people need them. And I thought that was a really interesting line, and it's kind of really a bit of a MacGuffin for this movie, for the Deadpool character. It's all about him learning that being a hero isn't about fulfilling something in you. Being a hero is about being there and sacrificing yourself for the people that need you. So I like the premise of this. I think it worked. I was afraid it was going to get a bit confusing with multiverse stuff, and it did a little bit. There are some things that are kind of hard to, like him going back to the 616. So we'll talk about that right now. Then it was a little confusing because it shows a flashback of Wade right after the events of Deadpool 2, where he has Cable's time machine, and it shows all the montage of things that he went back and did, killing the version of himself from X-Men Origins Wolverine. It showed him killing Ryan Reynolds with the Green Lantern script. It showed all the stuff like that. But then it showed him in the 616 universe. And at first I was like, oh, so the 616 has a version of Deadpool? Then if he's already in the MCU, then why would, because that's the sacred timeline, that is 616 universe is the universe of the MCU, then why are we worrying about whether he can come to the MCU or not? But then it got cleared up in my own head after watching it a couple times, is that they weren't really clear on it, but that was a part of him using Cable's time travel device, is that he went into the 616 universe that has the Avengers. Obviously, the Avengers aren't in the Fox cinematic universe, which is his universe, the 10005 universe. I can never remember how many zeros are in it. I have to keep counting that out. But at any rate, it was a little confusing at first. My wife's like, I didn't even get any of that at the time. And I tried to explain it, and she's like, don't try to explain this to me. I don't care. It was a great movie regardless. But ultimately, a very simple story, and well told in a simple way. if you can call time travel and multiverse travel simple. Now, of course, I went on about that way longer than I planned, but I love the opening of this, where you see Deadpool in the present, where he's gone to the grave of Logan to exhume the body because he feels because of Logan's healing factor he's not actually dead. I also loved how they addressed the fact that everyone was worried about the legacy of Logan and desecrating that legacy, and they went right out and said that, hey, you know what, we are going to desecrate that by desecrating Logan's grave. But I love that opening segment where he's fighting the TVA guys, and he says he's not going to use his weapons, so he uses Wolverine's adamantium covered bones as weapons, and that opening to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye, which I think I heard Blake Lively had something to do with that being used or getting the rights to that, but it was fucking hilarious. The song, the shots that they showed with him beating the shit out of people with Wolverine's bones, where he puts on the adamantium claws and he gets the one claw stuck in a guy's ass and the other claw stuck in a guy's dick. It was hilarious. Where he shoves the femur bone into a guy's crotch, literally giving him an adamantium covered boner, was hilarious. The fact that Ryan Reynolds did all the dance moves from the NSYNC video amidst all this, my wife and I were dying, and this is just like the opening credits. We just freaking loved that. But I loved when they had Wolverine escape from the TVA, and you had him going and trying to find the right Wolverine to bring back to his universe. I loved all the different versions of Wolverine that they showed. I thought we were going to get more cameos of people that there was a lot of speculation, like the patch version of Wolverine. There was a lot of speculation that might be this actor, might be Daniel Radcliffe. It was Hugh Jackman. I liked the Age of Apocalypse version of Wolverine with the black leather and the wild hair and the stump of a hand that still popped out adamantium claws. That was pretty cool. You had that image of Wolverine crucified on the X, the Uncanny X-Men. I think it was number 251 from back in '89 with all the blood-soaked skulls at his feet. That was quite disturbing. I love the classic brown and tan suited Wolverine fighting the Hulk. Now, we didn't get to see Wolverine actually fight the Hulk, but we did get to see the Hulk cameo smash Deadpool, which to me felt like a little bit of a meta moment when Deadpool was talking with Happy Hogan and saying he got caught schmasturbating in Stark Tower. You had the older Wolverine. It didn't look like old man Wolverine. It looked more Clint Eastwoody, like 1800s, but shooting him with a shotgun was pretty funny. Probably one of the best ones was they digitally shrunk Hugh Jackman to make a comic book accurate height Wolverine, because Wolverine in the comics is 5'3", and everyone's like, "Oh, I want comic accurate," and they showed you what comic book accurate Wolverine would look like, and I mean, honestly, it was Hugh Jackman kind of shrunk down, so that added to the ridiculousness of the look. But yeah, I don't think we need comic book accurate height Wolverine. Maybe a shorter Wolverine. Maybe somebody, 5'9", 5'10", but you see why they don't do a comic book accurate height Wolverine. But that was quite a funny moment, and probably one of the best moments was we did actually get a cameo of somebody else playing a Wolverine variant, where you see the back of him. He's working on a motorcycle, and Ryan Reynolds comes up to him, and he's talking about, "Oh, this is the one everybody wants," and it turns around, and it's Henry Cavill as Wolverine, because everyone's been fan casting him as Wolverine, and seeing him in this, I was like, oh, he would make a pretty badass Wolverine. But it was very much like John Krasinski as Reed Richards in Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Everyone fan cast him, so it was kind of a little doff of the hat to the fans. Here you wanted him, here you got him. But I loved when Deadpool called him the Cavalrine. It was freaking hilarious. And that whole montage was quite fun. But when he comes back with this Wolverine that he finds in the bar, that nobody wants him around because he has essentially become a pariah in his own universe. That Wolverine comes back to the TVA. They prune both of them. And then we get to the Void. And that's really where the bulk of this movie takes shape. And we have that first fight scene between Deadpool and Wolverine. And it was just... I love that line where Deadpool says, let's give them what they wanted. And he kind of looks to the camera and says, okay, nerds, get out your special sock. Insinuating that everybody is going to beat off to this fight scene because it was so freaking good. So freaking epic. We got the Wolverine claw crotch shot that I posted a picture of back when that first came out in the trailer. It just had all the fun that you would have and all the brutality of a fight between two characters who can't die, have healing powers, and just going at it, slashing and shooting and ripping each other apart. It was really cool. Yeah, that's what everybody came to the movie theater for, to see shit like that. And it's not the last one we got. I think there was an even better fight that happened later on where they're in the woods and in that minivan. That fight was fucking awesome. Who would have thought a fight inside of a minivan could be so brutal and so freaking good? Oh my God, I freaking loved that. But after that first fight, you get that character that's all hooded and shrouded and cloaked, and you can't really see. You see blue in that costume. You see a little bit of red somewhere with some white bandaging around, and it looks almost like stars and stripes, red, white, and blue. And you hear that voice, and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's Chris Evans. And I love how Deadpool thinks this is Captain America, that they've shown up. And, of course, Cassandra Nova's characters, her bad guys, her rogues gallery of bad guys, come up and are circling them. You see this Chris Evans character still hooded and cloaked, but he's like, okay, now it's time. And Ryan Reynolds, he's going to say it. He's going to say it. And where he thinks he's going to say, Avengers Assemble. And he doesn't. He says, flame on. And it turns out to be Chris Evans' version of Johnny Storm. I was like, this is fucking awesome. I think I may have said that out loud in the movie theater as everyone's kind of hooting and hollering about that. It was so cool because there was a lot of speculation whether Johnny Storm, Chris Evans, would show up in this and who he would be, Captain America or Johnny Storm. I'm glad they went with Johnny Storm. That was really cool. The fact that Johnny Storm got his skin ripped off of him, which played into the PS scene, that was kind of fun. I really loved Cassandra Nova because we kind of move into that section where we get to meet her. And Jesus Christ, she is a good bad guy. Emma Corrin played her, and I don't really know Emma Corrin that well. She hasn't really been in anything that I've watched. I know my wife watched her in The Crown, playing a young Princess Diana, but I really wasn't that familiar with her. I know the name, but I really haven't watched much that she's in, but I wasn't sure about this character. Was I going to like this? Was I going to like her as this character? But the trailers looked really good, and the movie really paid it off. She was a menacing bad guy, playing the twin of Charles Xavier that tried to kill him in the womb, and her being pruned and kind of having a vendetta out for the world and trying to eventually get rid of the whole multiverse. That way, the only place that's left is the Void, and where she is God there because of her telekinetic powers. But I really thought she did a good job. She played the character well. She played the menace well. But she also played, in some moments, you almost felt a little sympathy for her and a little empathy for her. It didn't make her less of a bad guy, but, it didn't humanize her completely to where you're like, oh, it's not her fault she's a bad guy. No, it's her fault she's a bad guy. It's the choices she made. But you kind of see where she got to the point where she is. Doesn't justify it, but but it was really done well and made this character a very good villain, a very menacing villain. I believed every bit of the menace of her because it was a very whimsical menace that, like, you know, she's just toying with people because she has those telekinetic powers that she can control people and then control Wolverine to stab his claws into his thighs. And it was done really well. And I really enjoyed that. I really like like I said, the Rogues Gallery of Fox X-Men bad guys that they had, or not even just X-Men. I mean, there was another one. I'll talk about that, but I love, you know, Pyro, and Pyro was really featured. Probably the only henchman of Cassandra Nova's that was featured, played by Aaron Stanford, but you had Toad showed up. You had Tyler Mane as Sabretooth, and you got that really cool showdown between Wolverine and Sabretooth that lasted all of about 2 seconds, where Tyler Mane loses his head. There was Lady Deathstrike, Callisto, Azazel, Bullseye, Cyclock. Juggernaut was kind of featured a little bit. I know the Blob was in it, but I didn't notice him anywhere. Maybe it will take a third watching to notice that. They had the Russian, which was played by Kevin Nash in the Tom Jane, The Punisher, but they didn't have Kevin Nash. They just had somebody, they essentially recast it. I was like, if you're not going to bring back the original actor to play this character, then why have the character in? Because the character really didn't play, you know, it wasn't an integral part. I mean, you could have had virtually anybody else play any other character in an actual Fox movie. I didn't understand why they did it that way. Maybe I'm missing something, but that was the only one that really kind of felt out of place to me. But it was cool to see all of these characters come back. Like I said, none of them were really featured that much other than like Juggernaut and Pyro. Everyone else really kind of felt like window dressing, which that's fine. You needed those names to make this what it is. And it really is kind of a love letter to some of the unsung heroes of the ill-fated Fox Marvel universe. Now, where business really picks up is after that fight scene between Deadpool and Wolverine in the minivan. They are taken in by a group of ragtag good guys that have been pruned. And there were a couple that were rumored. One kind of terribly confirmed. Another one rumored. Another one I wasn't expecting. And a third one that was kind of confirmed late in the game. But you had Jennifer Garner as Elektra showing up. You know, it was great to see her. There was a funny joke talking about something happening to Daredevil and her saying, it's okay, because Ben Affleck, who played Daredevil, and her being divorced. It was a funny moment. Another one, I wasn't expecting him, but Wesley Snipes as Blade showing up. And they had a really fucking great line where he says, he's the only Blade. He's the only Blade there's ever going to be. And like Ryan Reynolds looks to the camera and his eyes get wide because they are working on a new Blade movie. I think that was kind of a meta joke on the fact that it's been like 5 or 6 years since they announced it. They have gone through multiple writers, multiple directors, and the movie still hasn't been made yet. Mahershala Ali is like in a holding pattern waiting for that. But Wesley Snipes, I loved him reprising his role as Blade. The one that I heard rumors that this might happen, and they confirmed it. Channing Tatum as Remy LeBeau, Gambit. And I freaking loved him. When I heard Channing Tatum wanted to do a Gambit movie, I was like, I don't know. I like Channing Tatum. He's a good actor, but I don't know if I can see him as Gambit. And of course, that movie ended up getting canned. And to have him in the full Gambit regalia, the brown leather jacket, doing the Cajun accent. The Cajun accent got a little too heavy. I think he needed to back off that. I think it worked for this movie, but if he was going to do a Gambit movie, he'd have to back off that a little bit, I think. But I freaking loved seeing him as Gambit and seeing a live-action Gambit, like a comic book accurate live-action Gambit. I know that Tyler Kitschke or whatever his name is in the Logan movie, he did a good job with that portrayal of the character, but I want a comic book accurate Gambit, so I was glad to see that. I loved how they kind of gave their reasoning for wanting to go take on Cassandra Nova, and that, Jennifer Garner as Elektra and Wesley Snipes as Blade. It's more of to get closure to the work that they've done as these characters, but with the Gambit, it's more about he never got a chance. Channing Tatum, in a meta way, never got a chance to to save anybody as Gambit. So that's what he got with this, and that was kind of fun. But then they brought in Daphne Keane as X-23, and of course she was confirmed in that final trailer with the great appearance in that, and she played a bigger part than I thought she might in this. So that was really cool to see her show up with this group of others. I like that moment where Alioth is ready to eat everyone in the Void, or at least this group of bad guys and good guys in the Void. Cassandra Nova does her best WWE. She's a heel, then she turns face, then she turns heel again not before sending Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool and Wolverine, back to Deadpool's universe, the 10005 universe. But that's the scene where, we find out that she is a bad guy. She's going to destroy the rest of the universe and leaving only the Void, and she brings in the Deadpool Corps to take on Deadpool and Wolverine, and that was another fucking fantastic fight scene. All the different Deadpools. Of course, they introduced Dogpool early. Nice Pool, played by Ryan Reynolds, was quite fun. The fact that he doesn't have regenerative powers, and Deadpool took advantage of that to get those gold-plated Desert Eagles. That was pretty cool. The Deadpool Corps had some really cool cameos. Nathan Fillion as Headpool. You had probably, I don't want to say one of the worst kept secrets in Hollywood, but like everybody called this. There was thought that it might be Taylor Swift, but everybody knew it was going to be Blake Lively as Lady Deadpool. I don't know if she was in the suit, but she definitely voiced the character. You had that cowboy Deadpool voiced by Matthew McConaughey. Was pretty cool. They had all sorts of different Deadpools. A lot of regular Deadpools, but there was a Scotsman with a bagpipe Deadpool. There was a samurai Deadpool. There was a Deadpool that's all gray and black and white, almost like a noir Deadpool. A lot of cool Deadpools, and that fight was quick, but it was really good. Seeing Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's where we get Wolverine pulling his cowl over his head for the first time, and I have to say that I was not the only one in the theater geeking out over that, but that was a really cool fight. And then you have that moment where Cassandra Nova is kind of manipulating the Time Ripper, this device they invented for this movie and for the TVA to hasten the destruction of a timeline, and she's going to use that to destroy all the timelines, all the different universes, and the only way to do that is to short it out by connecting the matter and antimatter power sources. Hey, I won't get into all the science of that, but that moment where Deadpool and Wolverine are deciding who's going to sacrifice themselves, and Wolverine's like, you have friends that you need to be there for, I've got nobody, I'm going to sacrifice myself. And then Deadpool ends up tricking him and going to sacrifice himself because he finally realizes that it's not about being a hero, is not about what you need, what it fulfills in you. It is about protecting the people, doing everything you have to, even sacrifice yourself for the people that you love. And then that moment where it's not just Logan, it's not just Deadpool, they both kind of hold hands while Madonna's playing, and they short it out, and it's all set up that they're both going to die, or one of them would die, but together they don't, and they come back in the end. I love the jokes about Hugh Jackman being shirtless. That was quite funny. But they conceivably destroy Cassandra Nova. I don't know if she's completely dead, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Paradox gets taken away by the TVA. Wade asks about his friends that helped him. We do see X-23 and Dogpool show up at the end. What does that mean for Elektra, Blade, and Gambit? Maybe their story is not quite done yet. But this version of Logan stays in Deadpool's timeline as the new anchor for the sacrifice. Maybe they're both the anchor now, who knows? But it was a real heartfelt and happy ending. And that's, like I said, you get all the gore, and you get all of the crude humor, and you get all the comic book action fun, and you get all of the pomposity of what you want from a comic book film, but you also have that heart. You have those moments where, it shows you what matters most, and what matters most to Wade is the people around him. That moment you get in the car where he says, it's only 9 people in this photo, but that's my whole world, and I don't know how to save it, but you do. That such a fucking powerful moment. That moment where Daphne Keene is talking to Wolverine. It plays a little different in the movie than the trailer. In the trailer, they show it all as one scene. They kind of break it up in the movie, but Wolverine's saying, you've got the wrong guy. And she says, you were always the wrong guy until you weren't. And those touching moments where people realize that, it's not about what you've done in the past. It's about what you do right now with the moment you have right now. And that just, Jesus, that just touches me. Touched me then, and not in an inappropriate way. It was very appropriate. And I really loved that message and those stories. Stories like this that have a lot of fun, a lot of grossness, a lot of crudeness, but also have a lot of heart. And then, of course, during the end credits, they show scenes from behind the scenes footage of all the actors and all the characters from all the Fox Marvel movies, not just the X-Men, Fantastic Four, all the Fantastic Fours, all the X-Men stuff, all the different versions of actors playing the characters, from stuff like Daredevil and things like that, which was really nice and really fun to watch. And then, of course, you get that PS scene with Ryan Reynolds. He kept being blamed for Johnny Storm's death, and we finally see that Johnny Storm is just as foul-mouthed, if not more foul-mouthed, and really got what he asked for. Quite honestly got what he asked for. But there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. Fantastic movie. Like I said, it paid homage to the Fox Marvel stories and actors. I thought we were going to get more Fox Marvel cameos, and I don't think that's the end of it. I thought it was confirmed that Halle Berry as Storm was going to be showing up. Maybe that was a cut scene. I think we will see more of those actors. James Marsden as Cyclops, Famke Janssen as Jean Grey. I think we'll see more of them in Secret Wars once that comes out. But I thought we might see them in this. We got a reference to it or at least those characters, Scott Summers and Jean, and we got those with Wolverine talking about why he didn't wear the costume, why he wears it now. But we didn't get those cameos from those actors playing those characters, which I thought we might. I thought we might get more Wolverine variant cameos. I thought we might get a Daniel Radcliffe cameo because, like I said, much like Henry Cavill, I thought we were... a lot of fans think he would make a good Wolverine, but we didn't get that. But we got enough cameos. There were plenty of cameos, whether it is Wolverine variant or whether it is other Marvel characters, Deadpool, variants. You had a lot of good cameos, a lot of great comic book fun. Like I said, this was a hard R, and it earned every bit of being a rated R movie. And I enjoyed it. Kudos to Kevin Feige and Disney for having the balls to go and say, hey, you know what? We're going R with this. And to let them do that and let them make, Ryan Reynolds and the writing team make all the jokes at Kevin Feige and Disney and Marvel's expense. I freaking loved it. That moment where the Deadpool core comes out of that sling ring portal. And he's like, this is enough with the multiverse. You've tried it. It hasn't worked. And I think they are going to wrap up the multiverse stuff. I think that happens with Secret War. I'll talk a little more about that coming up. I don't know if today, if you're listening to this on Monday the 29th, whether it's today or maybe tomorrow the 30th or whenever you happen to listen to this. But I am going to do a random curiosity on my thoughts on the Marvel Hall H presentation at Comic-Con. There's a lot of interesting things being thrown out there. I'm going to give my thoughts on those on a random curiosity. I might talk a little more about what I expect with Secret Wars. But I really love this movie. All of the jokes were fantastic. I've heard Entertainment Weekly put out some stupid ass article about how the jokes were all lame, or not lame, but it was childish humor and not very funny. From somebody that obviously doesn't get Deadpool movies. But I thought all the jokes landed. All the jokes were funny. There were just too many to count. I talked about a few of my favorite funny moments, but that's just the tip of the iceberg of my favorite, funniest moments. And even the jokes that they did in the trailer, still worked. I watched this movie twice. I went to watch it with my wife on Friday night, and then I went again on Saturday afternoon to go watch it again. And every joke that they had in the trailer, I still laughed just as hard in the movie at those jokes, even though I saw them in the trailer. I saw them the first time I watched Deadpool and Wolverine, and I laughed just as hard at the second showing of Deadpool and Wolverine that I saw. So the humor is good, the violence is good, the heart is even better, and I absolutely love this movie. Great movie. Great outing from Kevin Feige, Marvel, and Disney, and Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, everyone involved. The special effects were freaking phenomenal. That's what happens when you give your special effects people the time and resources to do things right. You have really good special effects like that, really good CG like that. So hats off to everybody involved. A wonderful movie that if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's an experience type movie that best experienced in the movie theater, but if you wait until it comes out on VOD or you can watch it on Disney Plus, even if you're waiting until then, you got to watch this at some point because it really is a great Marvel movie and a return to form for Marvel. We haven't had greatness like this in a while. Hopefully that is a consistent thing that happens with Captain America, Brave New World, with the Thunderbolts, once we get into Avengers 5 and 6, which we'll talk about on a random curiosity, coming up either probably later today or tomorrow. But hopefully, they let this be a launching point for a return to greatness for Marvel. And I think this is a great starting point. So I want to thank everyone for listening to my thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. Check it out in theaters now. You can check out more about what's going on with Odds Bodkins Curiosity Shop on our Facebook and Instagram pages. Like, follow, and subscribe to us wherever you happen to be listening to this podcast. Leave a review, 5 stars. That'd be awesome. Whatever review you leave, we appreciate that. It helps with the algorithms and giving these podcast platforms fodder for saying, hey, you know what, other people want to listen to this, we'll kind of promote them. And also share this podcast with anyone that you know that loves horror, fantasy, and science fiction. So until next time. Thank you for visiting Odds Bodkins Curiosity Shop. We hope that you found something to your liking and visit the shop again soon. But even though you may come back, you never really get to leave Odds Bodkins Curiosity Shop.